Hi people, it's so nice to talk to you again and hope you will enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed filming it. Um, this is my favorite video for three reasons. First, because it's the first one in 2025. Second, because I'm announcing something very interesting. And third, because I will be talking about one of my all-time favorite books and movies. So stay tuned. Announcement is that I, as a teacher, together with my student collaborator, Mo, from China, we are organizing our first Chinese group chat. So we've done it before. I had some group chats with students from Brazil. In this chat, I think we had over 200 students who participated. This time we're going to China and we're going to be hosting it online, probably on a Chinese chat service, which is Tencent Meets or something like that. So we'll see. So it will be for the Chinese audiences only. And if you are Chinese and you're currently in China, or you don't have to be in China, if you're Chinese and you had classes with me before and you're subscribed to my channel, you can write me on my Instagram, on my email, or you can comment down below and I will send you the invite for the meeting. So the first meeting is going to be free of charge, and I'm just going to be talking a little bit about myself, and you're going to ask me questions. I'm going to introduce the idea, and every second chat is going to have a topic, and some of the topics you will suggest as well. So I think group chats and group lessons are so much more fun than one-on-one. And for a lot of students who are shy, for a lot of students who are, bored and they don't know how to improve their English, they don't know how to get communicating. Group chats are there to kind of get you going. If you don't know where to begin, group chats are always fun. I never had a bad time in a group chat. All of the students were always engaged and they were kind of giving ideas, and it can, like, a group chat can last for like 2 hours. And I'm always like looking forward to talk in real time. So this is an excellent idea, and I hope I will be able to keep it going and have as many group chats as possible. Maybe even like a global group chat. That would be amazing, where like you guys all can exchange ideas and inputs from your own cultures, tips about studying English, improving English, tips about studying abroad, working abroad. So it's just going to be a global meetup place where you guys who are already global citizens and you're interested in improving your just English skills and altogether communication skills, where you can kind of shine and enjoy yourself. So that's the big announcement. Like I said, comment down below if you like to participate, or write me in my personal email, minkaphoto@gmail.com. I'm going to leave it down below. And also you can write me on my Instagram. I know I have some of my Chinese students who are following me on Instagram. Oh yes, I forgot that Mo, as he's Chinese, he will be speaking with you guys in Chinese. So if some of you don't know, if you're like A2 level or you're super shy, you cannot ask a question or say something in English, you can say it in Chinese and then Mo will translate. So it will be super flexible, also for the beginners. But I would advise no younger than middle school students should participate, because for kids, there should be like a different topic and altogether like different setup for the group chat. So if you have kids who want to study English, maybe in the future we will do like a specific class for that. But like for now, we're going, you know, 13, 14 years plus. Now, let's get to the topic of today's video, which is the book talk about one of my favorite books of all time, which is called The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides or Eugenides. I don't know exactly his last name. I think it's Greek. So this book has been made into a movie. Probably some of you know, there's a movie directed by the very talented Sofia Coppola, called Virgin Suicide. So the screenplay has been adapted from this book. And this was one of the first movies that I saw when I was in high school, but I didn't read the book. And now, like 15 years later, I have it. And I just wanted to buy it just to have it on my shelf and also to compare and see what are some of the things that Sophia was inspired by to put it on screen? And are there some other things that were happening in the book that she thought were not that relevant? So I was focusing on those things while I was reading. And I thought maybe it's going to be boring for me because I know the movie so well. And then when I read the book, I'm gonna be just like, oh, I know what happens, like, ugh, you know. But no, not at all. Like the book is so well written, and I just like confirmed all the things that I loved from the movie, and I went through it so quickly. So I really recommend it. It is a book of philosophy, of existential philosophy. It is a book on theology. It is a coming of age book. So it has some heavy topics in it. If you are a sensitive person or you think, you're not in the mood to read something like this, maybe you can skip it. But the book in itself, it is tragic in a way. I'm going to give all the spoilers, so please read first and then listen to my video as always because I'm talking from the beginning till the end. So the book is called The Virgin Suicides. The title itself is very telling, but at the same time, it can be interpreted in many different ways. The way I interpreted it, the virgin would be something that's unspoiled, new and innocent. Second word, I'm not sure if I can say it on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to say the S word. So it can be referred as something that doesn't exist anymore or something that is destroyed. So that would be the interpretation of the title, the destruction of innocence, I would say it that way. So the book is set in a town called Grosse Pointe or Pointe, I think it's Point, in Michigan. So it's near Detroit, and this is what we would call Midwestern region. And this is very close to my heart, so I know a little bit of the atmosphere um, of that neighborhood and of that small town. I think I was somewhere near there when I was traveling to Chicago from Cleveland. I'm not sure, but like I think I passed that city on the lake. It's a lake town, and it's not that exciting. Midwestern towns can be a little bit boring and can be quiet. The lake is beautiful, but at the same time, you cannot really swim always. Sometimes it can be polluted. The color is not the best, so it's not California. It's a different type of community. So, but anyway, I like anything that has to do with like small town Americana. That is always fascinating for me. So in this Grosse Pointe, there is a neighborhood where we have a house with five sisters and their parents. They live all together, and the sisters are all, I think, 1 year apart. So you have Cecilia, Lux, Bonnie, Mary, and Therese. So those are the sisters, and they, like I said, they're all pretty much alike. They're all blonde, and they look alike, but they're just 1 year apart, and they're going into a local high school. In the neighborhood, there are also a couple of other houses with boys that are their age. Some of them are younger, some of them are older. But there is like special connection between the girls and these boys on the street. And basically, the book is narrated by one of the boys or a couple of boys. So it's from a male perspective. And the book is almost like, there is a distance between the person who is narrating and the girls. So the book is about the girls, but we never actually kind of get into their heads or like come close to them. It's always like the book is very observant, like they're looking at them from a window on the house across the street. And that kind of like a third eye view on this whole story of these girls is very, very refreshing. It's like something new I've never read something like this before. And for younger audiences, this is like a millennial book. Like for us who are now in our 30s, this was like a coming of age book. And just the adaptation of the movie that was done in such a beautiful way with beautiful visuals that Sophia made, I think it kind of gave this book an even like greater significance in a way. So you have a lot of like themes and styles and mood boards and storyboards that were inspired by the Virgin Suicides. And the most famous actress from this movie is Kirsten Dunst, who plays Lux Lisbon. I think she was kind of a cult figure after that movie because her character was so well portrayed. So their parents, the father is a teacher at the local high school where they go to, and mother is a stay-at-home mom, so she takes care of them. And all of this would be amazing. Girls growing up together, what could be wrong in a way. But their upbringing, I guess, was a little bit more religious. So the parents were very, very strict, and we don't necessarily see that from afar. But like when the book kind of goes into details and goes a little bit near into or comes into the house, we see the way that these girls were living. That was not very typical for that time. So this was like the end of 70s, I think. And in America, you had these predominant religious families where things had to be done in a certain way, and a lot of things were forbidden. And just managing five teenage girls, with these strict religious rules, could go wrong in some way. So the first event that kind of sets off the whole book is the attempted S by the first girl, Cecilia, the youngest sister, and we really don't know why this happened and why this that she had this idea to that she doesn't want to exist anymore. Considering that she has her sisters and that she's not alone, she's not lonely, she doesn't have any boy problems in a way. But in the hospital, when the doctor says, what do you know about life? You're only 13. And she says, Doctor, you don't know what is it like to be a 13-year-old girl. So obviously she had some kind of inner troubles, and she was super sensitive. That later we see very well in the book. She was following the news. She was very devastated about what's going on in the world, and she kind of felt that pressure of living in a small town, helpless and hopeless, not being able to do anything, not being able to get out of that of of that life, of that bubble that the parents kind of created for them. And she was kind of the strongest one, and that's why she decided to I guess go first. And after that event, the parents are shocked a little bit. They don't know. All through the book, they're like, I don't know, what did we do wrong? Like, why? Like, I guess this is a curse, or like, I don't know why our daughters behave that way. But after this event, they organize a party in the house of the girls, and they invite the boys from across the street. Those boys who were so obsessed with Lisbon girls, and that they were watching them from afar and kind of trying to analyze them. But there is like a very beautiful moment in the book that's very well described, how young boys look at young girls at that time. So for them, these beings are so mystical, so magical, so different. They're trying to kind of you know, catch the ways of how they function, and almost like, what they smell like, what kind of soap do they use, how do they breathe, what music do they listen to. They're trying to like kind of paint a picture of them because they feel they will never be able to come as close to them as they would want to in a way. And so they're invited to the house, and the party is kind of in honor of Cecilia, but it is not particularly cheerful. The sisters are kind of, there, but they're not enjoying themselves that much. And there we see kind of that perfect picture family from the inside is not nowhere near perfect in a way. And after that party, Cecilia actually asks to be dismissed because she's not enjoying herself. And finally, the night ends with her death. So she succeeds in doing what she was attempting to do before. And so the book really begins with first sister gone. And the aftermath of that, how the other sisters reacted and how the parents reacted to that event is what we later find out in the book. So after the funeral, we are introduced to the high school life of this Grosse Pointe city. What is it like when you have a parent who's a teacher and who's also religious? And what is it like when you are, all together, so similar, beautiful at the same time, but like, these sisters were always together, not particularly successful at, being very social. They didn't have a lot of friends. And after that incident, everybody was looking, at them with pity in a way, or they tried to kind of not make a mistake while talking, not to bring up some sad topics and so on. So the girls kind of were excluded from the social life of this high school. And it shows the beauty of like an American high school, how it can be like when you wear uniforms and you have a school bus or the school is in your neighborhood and you know all of your teachers and like it's a very like small town life at its best. But at the same time, the other side of it is this heaviness and loneliness and isolation that these girls went through. I cannot imagine like nowadays with social media, I think this would not be as relevant because at that time they didn't have any other outlet outside of like their home phones to, call somebody. Nowadays, like if you are in that situation, you could connect with other people much easier, I guess. So the story would not be the same if it was told now. And so we are also in the book very beautifully introduced to each of the girls. So every girl has something different, of course, like they're similar, but they all have a different character and they all kind of exist in a different way. But we don't really know much about their desires and hopes for the future because I guess they don't have any. So everything in their household is determined by their parents, and so even if they wanted to do something, they couldn't because the parents wouldn't allow it. So I guess they wanted to go somewhere to, have fun and travel, but they could only do that with the parents. So they were not allowed to, go outside of that bubble. But I guess, there are some families like that who, of course, don't end up like this and don't have the same destiny, but tells us about how when you try to keep something that perfect, it cannot be perfect. It has to be spoiled at some point because that is life, I guess, like that is growing up. So out of all the girls, I think the most interesting character is Lux Lisbon. She's, I think, the middle one who has like 14 or 15 at this point, like and she is the one who is kind of the more rebellious, the more liberal. She's the one that listens to rock music. She likes boys more. And just she is the one who could potentially save other sisters, let's say. So everybody in the book is, waiting for her to do something. But at the same time, like she's very, I think the way this was portrayed in the movie, she's very self-conscious and she's very, very smart. So she feels the pain of her sisters and she also feels the pain of Cecilia. So she's not very selfish in a way. Otherwise, she would just like run away and never come back. So she kind of stays with her sisters all through the end. So that is also fascinating. So for me, like when I saw the movie for the first time, I thought maybe she was going to run and leave them, but no, that didn't happen. So there's a couple of things also that happen later. There is a homecoming party, and there is this guy from high school who is, the heartthrob and all the girls are in love with him, but he kind of falls for Lux Lisbon. And there is this parallel story between the two of them where Lux is tempted to break all the rules and do what he says that they should do, which she does because that's the way she is. But after that homecoming where they go together and don't come back until the morning, the girls already know that they're going to be so punished for it. And, even though this guy, I think his name is Trip, he goes into that high school and parents know him. And this was not like such a big thing that she did. The rules are rules. So the parents behave as something like terrible happened and they lock the girls in the house. And basically they don't let them out. So this part is a little bit more fantastical in a way. I don't see that, I'm not sure how this could work in real life, just because the neighbors will know. So, all the neighbors know who are Lisbon girls, and they know that they live in that house, and they know that they're locked in the house. So probably in reality, somebody would come to rescue them, social services or whoever. But in this book and in the movie, it is portrayed how, the mother who is relentless at, giving them any pleasure because she's religious. She thinks that by restraining them from all the pleasures, including music, including makeup, including, everything that, young girls in high school like, she's trying to kind of make them tougher in that way. But in that selfishness, she doesn't see that the girls are slowly starting to wither away. And in the movie, that part is not that long, so I think Sophia couldn't like make us watch an hour of just them being in the house. But in the book, that excruciating time period where they are helpless and hopeless and they're asking for help and they're trying to escape and they're, sending messages to these boys in the neighborhood, it is much longer. And in the beginning, their will is so strong and none of them want to do what they did in the end. But slowly, how isolation and that repression and lack of pleasure in a sort can like bring to this outcome. They are being kind of called by Cecilia in a way, and they're thinking about her more, and they think that she was right in doing what she did. At the same time, they're sending these messages to the boys where they're asking for help, but the boys cannot come even near to the house. And there is this very interesting metaphor with the tree. There is an elm tree in front of the house that was Cecilia's favorite tree. And annoyingly, in every small town, there has to be a time period where all the trees get infected by something and they're cut down, even though they're so tall and beautiful and it takes like 50 years for them to grow. And this what happens at Grosse Pointe. So they come and they cut all the elms, but the girls came out to protect the elm of Cecilia because that was her tree, and they're against just in general, this would be a metaphor of like they're just in general against all the cruel things that are happening in the world. And there's like where you also can see their innocence. So, the question is, with that upbringing, would they be able to get adjusted to how harsh life is? So they almost lived in this very, very isolated community. Parents made them even more isolated. And after finishing high school, they would have to start their lives. But the question is, would they be ready for it? Towards the end, when I saw the movie for the first time, I was not even thinking about how, that this could be possible. I thought there would be like a different ending to the book. But basically what happens is they towards the end, they make a plan on how they will go. And so they call the boys and they say, we cannot live like this anymore. Can you come with a car at night and you're going to pick us up? We're going to pack and we're going to go together and escape. And the boys are pretty excited. They're like, finally, these girls are rebelling. They're doing something against these crazy parents, and they're ready. They have a car ready and everything going. And so at the in the evening, they come to their house. There was like a light signal that the girls send. And they come in and they're welcomed by Lux. She's waiting for them and she says the girls will be ready soon. And we just packed and we also have a car in the garage. We're waiting for our parents to get to sleep. And so the boys are still very excited, but they don't know that at this point, only Lux is alive, so all the other girls have gone. And um, as they're waiting, Lux says, I'm just gonna go and check the car. And she goes, and then they start like roaming through the house and they find all the girls basically in different ways dead. So they get very scared and they run out of the house. And the next day, we see the ER who comes to pick the girls the same way they picked Cecilia. So they basically, I think they first find Lux in the car. She suffocated there, and then they find the other girls in the house. But in the book, one of the girls, that's the difference between the book and the movie. I will spoil it. The Mary or one of the sisters survive, and so she is the one that was in the kitchen, and they managed to save her. And so she stays in the hospital for a while. And then before she actually comes back to the house, the parents decide to sell the house. And so they sold, I think, half of the furniture already. So when she comes to the house, nothing of her sisters is there. So she comes to this empty house with basically like no memories of her sisters. And this is what makes to me the book even sadder than the movie, is that they're kind of prolonging Mary's life, but you kind of question how long will she be able to, like, what's the point now when all of her sisters are gone, and like how is she going to live with that fact that she was supposed to go with her sisters but she didn't, she stayed. There could be different interpretations, like she's the one to survive to tell the story, or she's the one who can overcome this. Will she be strong enough? Again, like I think until the last point in the book, I was like, okay, maybe the ending of the book is different and she will be the one to survive, unlike the movie. But tragically, no, she goes again as well. So I think she overdoses with some pills, and so finally the house is empty, and parents, they're just in shock. Father is, I think, a little bit, he kind of goes a little bit crazy because he cannot, I think the mother here, as the mother figure who gave life to these girls, she's the one who is the most cruel, whereas father is just obeying and he's very weak, unable to protect the daughters. You would think that like father would want to protect his children against his wife, but this doesn't happen. So there's basically no one protecting them. What's beautiful is this contrast between life and death. What can be more beautiful than, young, wonderful girls with long blonde hair, healthy, doing girly things and writing in their diary, journaling, trying to play some instruments, doing makeup for the first time, buying clothes for themselves for the first time, buying bras and like underwear, just like kind of growing into these ladies. But at the same time, the end is so sad. So there's this contrast between the beauty and the ugliness. To me, this sounded like a true story. So I tried to dig to see, was the Jeffrey guy inspired by a true event? But ultimately, no, this is not a true story, thankfully. But he was inspired by girls who were living, so that he knew, who were like this, and they were melancholic, and they had like the the psychological psychological setup of these girls were, I guess, similar. So the inspiration was there, but the ending, luckily, was different. And so for me, this part here really has a meaning. When the neighbors are commenting the Cecilia's death, one of the neighbors says that girl didn't want to die. She just wanted out of that house. She wanted out of that decorating scheme. And this explains the book so well. That's how I like interpret it when I first ask the question, why would they do something like that? I think the book kind of holds this pressure of the American lifestyle and the American dream. So when you are so young and innocent and so protected and you are born in an isolated community, I think people from Europe may not be able to understand that because when you live in a European city where you know your neighbors more and you walk everywhere, you're kind of connected, the countries are smaller, you travel more. I don't know. I think it has to do with like I really see this book as like the curse of this American dream of being born in a city so small and then having this huge country that is kind of on top of your head now that you have to finish high school and enter the university. You're separating from your parents for the first time. You're becoming an adult. You have to drive a car. You're becoming responsible. You have to start earning money. So of these obligations, the heaviness of life kind of falls onto your head, but you're so helpless because you live in such a small community. And so the book also has this nostalgic part where um, after years, these boys have grown up and they got married and they have their own families. Some of them live in that neighborhood. Some of them still know that house that now is different. It's been sold to a new couple and it's been renovated, but still just all that they collected from these girls will forever, as they say, it will forever haunt them in a way. And they will never be able to forget them or see the world from a different perspective than the perspective of these girls. So ultimately, the boys kind of think that the girls were right in a way and that they were brave and that they knew more, I guess. They were more eccentric. They knew more about life at that age than these guys would ever know, even after, so many years. And also Trip, he ended up in some he didn't end up well. He ended up in a rehab and he still remembers Lux and he says he will never be able to forget her, even though they spend just like one night together. So if you're a new English learner, this book may be a little bit difficult for you because first of all, the vocabulary is a little bit complex. So it was written so the time period is the 70s, and some of the words and some of the terms are related to that period and that culture. But also, the book has a lot of switches between the present and the past. And for some of you who are not really good at composition of tenses, so this can be a little bit challenging to read. But the story is not too complicated, so you can definitely understand it, and even better if you watch the movie before. So that will like give you a little bit of an advantage. And to wrap it up, why I like this book is because I always like different things. So there's so many movies and books about, high school period and teenagers. There's wonderful movies that I recommend that are for the audiences now. Let's say Lady Bird by Greta Gerwig. There are some that are a little bit more tragic, like Beautiful Boy, that deal with like some complex issues, or, Call Me by Your Name. But this one is, I can say, like the OG, the original, the one that came first. So this book is a book about high school and coming of age and teenage years, uh, but it is so much more. So it is about, like I said, the existential philosophy and complexities of life, religious doctrines, American dream, all of that. So it's definitely, even if you're not a teenager, if you're an adult, you will enjoy a lot of the topic. Also, the topic of isolation, I think after COVID is more and more relevant. I think the writer could have never guessed that he would make a book that is relevant today in that term. We were all confined by not by our own will for a certain period of time. So we got to experience how it feels when you are just, unable to leave your room and you're confined to a very small space. And we all got to experience that kind of existence. So maybe, some of, introverts and people who already lived like that before were thrilled, but like some of the people who are more outgoing and more social really struggle with it. So it left a lot of consequences. So this is exactly the feeling that the Lisbon girls were experiencing at that time. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for sticking until the end. I hope you will at least watch the movie, or if you have time, the book is pretty cheap, so you can buy it online, or you can even read it in PDF. Don't forget to read. It's very good. We all use social media so much, and our attention span is getting smaller and smaller, our concentrations. So try to stick and read at least a couple of pages a day. And yeah, enjoy. And I hope to see you guys from China in my group class and the rest of you in my next video. Bye.